It's time to take a test, everybody.
It's time to take a test, everybody.
It's time to take a test, everybody.
Google Forms gives us a lot of flexibility in the types of questions that we can create for our students. It automatically gives us a multiple choice option, but by clicking this down arrow, we can select short answer options, multiple paragraph, check boxes, drop down, file upload, which allows the students to upload a file for their answer, linear scale, multiple choice grid, or checkbox grid. Again, this gives us a lot of options in the types of questions that we can ask our students. Okay, we have some questions created in our Google form. Now it's time to turn this thing into a test. I'm going to come up here to the top where there's a gear on the right-hand side of the screen next to the send button. I'm not ready to send it yet. I'm going to click this gear, and that brings up the dialog box. There are 3 tabs on this dialog box. I'm going to start off on the one that's on the far right, says quizzes. There are several things that I want to pay attention to on this quiz tab. There's a toggle switch here that I can turn on and off. By turning it on, this turns this form into a quiz. Now I'm ready to start grading this thing. Yes. Below that, there's an option here that says Locked on Chromebooks. Now this is going to be awesome when the students have their Chromebooks and they're taking this thing on the Chromebook and you don't want them to cheat. By locking it, turn on the lock mode, when the students open up the Google form, it'll open this up on a full screen where the kids won't be able to open up other tabs to go looking up the answers, much like it looks when they take their Georgia milestones. That's pretty awesome. That prevents them from going and Googling the question to go find the answer. Now, unfortunately, this will not work when they're sitting on a desktop. Bummer. Or on their phone. Bummer again. It's only good on the Chromebooks. So I don't turn it on because in my lab it just doesn't do any good. Okay, below that, there is an option to decide when do the kids get to see their grade. Do they see it immediately when they click the submit button, or do I want them to wait a little bit? Now this really is dependent on what type of question I've asked the student. If I'm giving them a test that has all multiple choice questions and I don't have a problem with them seeing their test scored right away, I'll leave it with immediately after submission. But if there's some paragraph type questions, short answer type questions where I have to read the responses first, Google will not, it gets kind of funny with Google trying to grade those. There's ways to do it, but it is kind of challenging, and we'll talk about those when we get into our sessions in the classroom, in the lab. If I have those types of questions, I would prefer to click here and say later. Let me have a chance to read those answers first, because kids will have all kinds of different ways to typing in those answers, and I want to be able to read those answers myself and then submit the grade to the students later. Because if you say grade it right now, odds are Google's going to mark every last one of those questions wrong. The paragraph type question anyway. It'll mark those wrong, and then the kids are going to get upset because their grade looks bad. They're going to get a little kind of out. And even though you sat there and said, hey, it's going to mark it wrong till I mark it right, they're going to forget that. So I usually just say wait for later. And then below that, there are some options here. What do you want the students to see? The missed questions, if you look at here at the little question mark here, it tells us that this lets the students identify which questions were answered incorrectly once they click that submit button. Right here on the correct answers, it gives the students the chance to see which questions had the correct answer. What was the correct answer for those questions? Again, after they've clicked that submit button. If you've got kids taking test first period and then kids taking the test later second period, I don't know that I would turn this on, because kids kind of like to help each other. So I sometimes leave that turned off. The points value, do you want the kids to see how many points each question is worth while they're looking at the test and taking it? That's a personal choice. Sometimes I leave it on just so the kids can know what they're looking at as they're taking the test. Going back up on the presentation tab, the progress bar is good for if you've divided your test up into sections. The shuffle question order is good for shuffling the questions around so that as student A is taking, they may see their first question different from whoever is sitting next to them has a different question show up first. Showing a link to submit another response is good if you want kids to take another test after they took the first one. So if I have it turned on so the kids can see their test grade immediately after they click the submit button and they see they failed, do they get a chance to immediately turn around and take another test? Now right now this is kind of grayed out, and that's because on the general tab I clicked limit to one response. Now if I take that check off, I can put a check here to say, okay, show a link here, let them take another shot at it. So there's a couple places here where we can kind of toggle that on and off. This right here, this check right here, restrict to users in the Terrell County school system. That's going to limit your form just to students in Terrell County. If you've got some students in other places you want to let fill out this form, take that check off. That will let them also fill out the form. This button right here will collect the email addresses automatically. It will do it as the kids are filling out the form. And right here, if you click this and the kids see, again, if they see that they've gotten questions wrong or they think they've gotten questions wrong after they click the submit button and they want to go back and change an answer, this check mark right here will let them do it on that same answer sheet. It's like, hey, give me my paper back, I want to change an answer kind of thing. That's what this button does. And this button right here, see a summary of charts? This is like, okay, how many picked answer A on question 1? How many picked answer B on question 1? So this is like a good little summary of how do we do stuff. So once you've got all your preferences set on the general, the presentation, and the quizzes tabs, down here in the bottom on the right is a save button. We click the save button and now your settings are set for the gear. Now if you change your mind, you can always come back up here and work on them again and click save again. You can do this as many times as you want. You can change your mind. Oh God, I don't want this to be a quiz anymore. Turn it off and click save. Oh, I changed my mind. I want it to be a quiz again. Come up here, turn it back on, make it a quiz again, and click save. You can do this as many times as you like. So once you've got that done, that's the gear. Okay, we have questions on our tests. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 questions, and I'm ready to create the answer key now. So I'm going to click at the bottom of this question. This is the first question on my form, and when I do, I see the word answer key appear at the bottom. I'm going to click answer key, and my screen kind of jumped. It took me to the top of the question. And I see there is an option here to set the points, the number of points that this question is worth. Now, since I have 4 questions, using a little bit of math, I'm not a math person, but fortunately, 4 is an easy number to deal with. That means I've got 25 points per question. So I'm simply going to put 25 points for this question. And then over here, I'm going to select the correct answer for this question. So my question was, in what city is Forrest Gump located in the scene? Do we know? Yes, Savannah. He was in Savannah in this scene. So I have this answer choice clicked, and I am going to put done. So I now have this one question with an answer choice worth 25 points. And there's one other thing I can do to this question. Over here with the little snowman dots, I'm going to click and I'm going to put a check mark next to Shuffle Option Order. Shuffle Option Order. Now what this does is that when the kids take the test, it's going to shuffle the options so that Atlanta is not always option A, Columbus is not always option B, Savannah is not always going to be option C, and Augusta is not always option D. It will shuffle those around each time this test comes up for the kids. And the same way we did on our gears, if you remember in the gear part, the gear, we could shuffle on a presentation, we could shuffle the questions right here. We can also shuffle the answer options. So there's a lot of shuffling going on this test. So we now have the tests created. We have our questions on here. As soon as I go through and I put in my answer choices, I'm not going to show you all of the answers because I might let you guys take this test. What else do I need to show you? Oh, I know. So important. This isn't actually a test question, but it is a question. First name and last name. I always have to remember to make this a question on the test, and it's going to get shuffled for the kids. The Google form is going to shuffle this into the test just along with the other questions that get shuffled. But I have to ask the kids for their name, because if I don't, when I get the answers, I'm not going to know who turned in what unless I ask for their email address here and they put in their email address there. Okay? You see how it populated a question for them to type in their email address. And I make, you see the little red asterisk there? What that does is it makes the question required. See, if I come in and I type in, I put in, give me your first name, and I click below there, instead of putting the answer key for here, I can toggle this question on and off as a required question, so that when the kids get to the submit button, if they have not answered this question, they will not be able to submit their answers. They won't be able to submit their test. It'll come back at them and it'll highlight this and it'll say, answer this question. Okay, that's kind of important. We got to know who's answering what.